Alright, I thought I was being clever, but I really wasn't. So, lesson about, you know, putting too much effort, but also putting some effort, but then also making a mockery of everything. But I think it's a nice log. So it's actually a log that's from a log house. It's not like a random log from a tree that was just cut down. This was actually this is cut off from a log house. So what we got today are these little Pocket Forgets, and this is actually Pocket Forget 2.0, which is kind of cool, kind of funny. It's just a slight improvement on some of the things from the 1.0 Pocket Forget. I'm gonna move this just a tad bit closer because it's actually like a tiny little knife. Oh, that's better. So here's our Pocket Forget 2.0, and the only real modifications to the design are the rivet material, the added washer, and then a longer cutting edge. It's still single bevel. It's such a small blade, and it's carbon steel, that it would be kind of silly to do anything but a single bevel, you know, so that you can actually cut thin stuff and thin slices, you know, with this, like, properly. You know, if you just had a regular double-sided bevel, I don't know, it just wouldn't work with this design. This is a much better for performance to have a single bevel. It's also easier to sharpen, and it's all friction folding, so it's a little stiff in the beginning because it's quite fresh out of the lab. They're pretty dandy, it's easy-ish to make. I'll tell you, it's easy to be consistent making these. So they look very, very similar to one another. But again, it's artisanship, so there's always small differences between each one. So again, so yeah, that's what it looks like when it's closed and then open. So, and single bevel. And this one also closes just like that. And I guess you can tell why it's called the Pocket Forget. When you slide this in your pocket, you might not find it again. And this is what the original one looked like. And this is, well, it's pretty fun and it's pretty useful actually. I was quite surprised how useful it was. And the reason why the blade is so short is because there's, you know, it's not intimidating, it doesn't look like a knife, and then you have the full grip, right? So there's something to having a full grip, which is nice on what is actually a very, very small package. So this is from a year ago, a year and 2 months ago, this one. So I made like 60 or 70 of them, and there's only maybe 7 left of these, but I decided to take them off the internet and update the series and just sort of do a brand new version of the product, which is slightly stiffer, slightly tougher. So this rivet material with the washer is just a stronger construction overall for this design. It's a longer blade, but I think you'll get more use out of it. Because with this, it's pretty difficult to start a fire, you know. This is quite difficult to start a fire. And there's yeah, so that's just there. So this is what we're talking about today. I don't want to just focus too much on the original version of the product that I want to discuss today, which is this one. So having that washer there adds a little stiffness. The material that's used for the riveting is also, it's iron, you know. And then same old ADCR V2, but just a longer blade. And here's a third one. so you can see that they're quite consistent to one another. One of my previous videos got flagged for putting the music on in the background. It was some copyright claim, and I was just like, what? It's like this publicly available, whatever. So I thought, since we're here, why not do something with this that's maybe a little bit above its class. Something tiny. I don't know. You might be able to even slip on an airplane with that. So I'm just gonna do some basic cutting. See, it's quite sharp. It's a funny type of sharpness because I call it like an industrial edge. A lot of industrial components, like blades in the market, you know, for tractors or for just components and machines and whatnot. They're often grounded like this, where it's just like basically one edge. Even Yanagibas and many single beveled like knives often have like either a small micro bevel on the inside or an ura. Sometimes like this too. So it's just something basic, just some carving. You know, it's in a funny sense of the word, it's quite a handful because there isn't much to grab on, so you kind of have to fill up that space with your own hand. But it cuts very nicely, and I reckon you could feather stick something pretty easily. Now this is pretty dry birch, so it's quite tough. But we got some basic feather sticks there, and it's not a very long stick, but I'm sure if you were desperate and this is the only knife you had with you, wherever you were, and you wanted to make a little fire and you didn't really have anything else, I think you could do it with this knife. And that's really the most valuable, to me, like one of the most valuable things is really to be able to always be able to make feather sticks and be able to make a fire and stuff. I mean, it really doesn't take much. Like, to us today, this is a pretty simple, basic little tool, but you know, with hundreds of years of, you know, knowledge and being able to have the luxury of accessing modern refined steels like this 80 CRV2, this is very high quality steel, you know, it's Swedish or German. And it might look pretty simple and very small and unsubstantial, but you know, if you think in the last few hundred years, you know, what you need to go through to get you know, some feather sticking if you're unprepared and you don't have any tools and stuff, it's nice to have just something in your pocket like this. You know, you can buy like 30 or whatever and just and just put it in every single pocket of your hiking suit, your military outfit, your hunting clothes or whatever. Photographers like to do that with some of my series. I have a series of these full steel kind of utility karambits. They're not really karambits. And what some photographers do, because they're so narrow and thin and they're so light, they're like 30-40 grams or something each, they'll just slip them in multiple pockets in all their bags, so they're never without a knife. Oh, that's pretty interesting. There's actually a lot people can learn from photographers when it comes to packing and hiking. I'm surprised actually that we don't appreciate photographers more for their how could you say, I mean, I don't know if it's really a survival skill, but actually like just the ability to pack efficiently and in smart ways, and organized packing. And you know, it's more than that, because you know they're carrying like 100 plus. Some of these guys are carrying, you know, almost 100, sometimes more kilos of stuff, and you know you're gonna need a lot of equipment just to carry that stuff. So they got a lot of equipment to carry equipment, and they gotta, you know, they gotta pre-plan their routes. They gotta know. It's clever stuff, and photographers are also the kind of persons that are likely to forget a knife because they have so much bags. It's like, oh, I put it in that bag and I left that bag at the hotel. Fuck. But it's like, it's okay because you have one of these knives in every single one of your fucking pockets. So you can forget any bag. You don't have to think about forgetting your bag. You don't have to remember not to forget. Because if you just put something basic like this in, you know, a pocket forget, look how much space this takes up. You know? This is minuscule. Minuscule. Granted, it's carbon steel, so it's not stainless steel. But, you know, it'll get you a fire going in a little cabin in the middle of freaking nowhere. And something that's super relevant in that case, you might be wondering, well, how am I gonna chop these logs with just this? Well, you don't have to use this to chop bigger logs. You can use this knife while you're there to carve wedges from your harder woods like this. So, hold on. You could work one of these down, you know, for a while. Just carve it down into a wedge, a V wedge, and then just stick it in the log and smack it with another log, and then you can split your logs with a wedge you made out of one of the logs. So you don't need to, you can use your knife to carve the tools that you can use to process the wood further. It's only splitting, so I think that was just an important thing to add on this, because then it's like, well, what do you mean, you know, from the previous statements? Because it's easy to create a feather stick, make a fire, but then you got like massive logs. What do you do with those? Well, yeah, so now you know, just carve a wooden wedge in. If you're stuck in a cabin in the woods, maybe that's all the information you needed to know to make a difference. So I can give you the exact weight right now. So, and there's another thing I'm working on, and you'll see a video of this next week. So the weight. Well, I don't need to actually close this. I don't know if you can see that. No, not really. So let's see the weight of this one. $14 grams. 14 grams. When it loosens up, you just tap very lightly once or twice on the iron here. You don't need to do much more than that. You can get it properly jammed. And when you're tightening this, if you have to, you can't really loosen it. The only way you can loosen it is by working it. So what you want to do when you're doing it and tapping it slightly tighter, if you want to, if you've had this for many years, if you own one of these, you know, and you might have to tighten it, you know, every couple years or whatever. Tap once and play with it, tap again, play with it, because it really doesn't take much. And but I would do it with it maybe not fully closed. Open is a bit dangerous. You might damage the edge of your finger, but don't close it all the way when you do that, because if you close it all the way and then you start tapping it a lot and it gets basically completely welded in there, you're gonna have a hard time pulling it out without like a vise. You just, you know, you bite vise right there and then you pull this from there. So if you're gonna tighten this, then just keep it slightly open, right? Something like that, and then you can play with it more easily and get more leverage to open it and loosen it up. But yeah, we will see more videos of this knife pretty soon. It's just I wanted to do a quick one now, kind of thorough. It's not like a million people watch these videos anyway. So this is more like if, I don't know, just a little chat about this knife. I think one mistake I'm making with YouTube is the videos are pretty long, so if I can cut them down to, you know, 5 minutes, then that's great. Because 15 minutes, that's like a proper jog for a lot of people, you know? So, here they are. That was a bunch of leaves falling off my avocado tree. So there it is. And that's the old one, the OG one, but that's not what this video is about. I hope you had a lovely time here on the Hot Metal Knives channel, or the Se Vink Latem Toch channel. Oops. And have a good night.